Hi, good afternoon. My name's Alistair Caithness. I'm the CEO of ZIY017. So for today's video blog, it's slightly different from the last. Today I'm going to speak about in 2014, when Scotland had a vote for independence, George Osborne, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, came out and said the Scottish electorate could not use the pound if they voted for independence. So initially the SNP wanted to have a currency union with England, whereby we could continue to use the pound after voting for independence. But George Osborne said there's no way we can use it, so essentially Scotland won't have any currency to use at all. Now this put the fear in a lot of voters, especially older voters, who came out to vote on that day. So what I want to actually speak about today is times have moved on since 2014. In actual fact, we should have doubled down. It's a great President Trump phrase. Double down on what George said by actually saying that what he said is incorrect. Because the first thing you have to understand, before even speaking about digital currency, which I feel is my area of expertise, is the fact you can actually benchmark your currency against any other currencies. So what do I mean by that? Well, in actual fact, Scotland could have continued to use the pound, and we could have used the English pound notes, and we could have used the Bank of England's money anyway. Nobody stops you from using money. In Panama right now, they use the US dollar. Yes, you are not in control of the currency, but nothing's stopping you using that currency. So to a certain extent, Scotland could have said, right, when we get independence, as of day one, we will use the pound, we will use the euro, and we will use the US dollar, and we will accept all three currencies to buy your everyday goods. And nothing would have stopped that actually happening. So the clock wouldn't stop and suddenly it would become chaotic, because essentially we can use any currency we want. Scotland could actually do another option where we actually benchmark ourselves against other currencies. Therefore, we could print our own notes and print our own coins, and we could create Scottish pounds and Scottish coins, and we could just benchmark them against the English pounds and English coins, and they would have exactly the same value. Obviously, the downside of benchmarking currencies is you can't get involved in quantitative easing, setting your own interest rates. But essentially, if we're wanting to join the European Union and start using the euro anyway, you're not going to be in control of this, because ultimately everything's getting dictated by Brussels. But again, nothing would stop us actually using us. So when they put this message out, and George Osborne said that, he didn't actually tell everyone these simple facts, that we will not stop having a currency. But what's actually happened since 2014 is everything is evolving into digital currency. See, what Facebook has done with Libra and what they're about to launch with Libra is a stable coin. Now this stable coin is going to be benchmarked against a suite of currencies, with three of the big ones are going to be the dollar, the euro and the yen. So ultimately they're doing this to avoid the big fluctuations as if it was like a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, and by benchmarking it against other fiat currencies, which is like a dollar, something that's that's what the fiat currency is. When it's a fiat currency, the US dollar is essentially being benchmarked against gold. So this is how the whole thing evolves. People don't know the terminology, but ultimately Scotland could actually do the same thing. So we could actually benchmark our currencies against three currencies, but I actually believe we should go one stage further. We should move into a form of digital currency, just like Libra. See, once Libra gets evolved, a lot of currencies will start to change. There's countries already now looking at this possibility of moving into digital currency. There are actually some smaller countries using it. But now you've got countries like Canada, China, Netherlands. They're all researching the use of digital currency. So for a place like Scotland, we could create the Scot coin. Now yes, in everyday transactions we can accept dollars, we can accept euros, we can accept the pound, but for any international payments, And bearing in mind Scotland's a net exporter of water and a net exporter of energy, the two most highly sought after commodities in the world. So we're net exporters of them. So we could get payments in when we sell oil and we sell electricity, we sell renewable energy to other countries, we could actually get paid through our own digital currency. And that's actually completely feasible. In actual fact, I've just set up ZIY017 on the Ethereum blockchain. So ultimately, when you're looking at countries like, right now, Saudi Arabia and UAE are creating their own digital currency called Aber, A-B-E-R. I might be pronouncing it wrong. Aber is what they're creating. And they're using that to make ease of international financial transactions between both countries, avoiding banking fees and avoiding currency transactional fees. So these are two things they're already doing. So for people to think Scotland can't do the same thing, it's already getting implemented. And when Libra actually makes this move forward next year, it's going to completely shake up the market. Banking is going to change anyway. So if Scotland actually voted for independence, we could easily create our own currency, we could easily create our own digital currency, and that could be operating near enough instantaneously once it's set up. We can actually start printing our own notes and our own coins against this digital currency, or essentially for day-to-day transactions, we can actually just say, right, we're benchmarking against this euro. Every single Scottish coin and every single Scottish pound is actually the same valuation as the euro. So as the euro moves up and down, the Scottish pound will move up and down. Now, George Osborne knew this information, but decided not to tell the Scottish electorate before the decision. And now you've got Boris Johnson as the new Prime Minister of the UK. And if he goes down this route of a second referendum for Scotland, the one thing he cannot say is we will not have a currency. Because right now, what I've said to you today, that's how it works. And in actual fact, I could actually help set it up for them. And there's multiple smart people out there who do the same thing. So thanks very much. Have a nice day.